This is again my fault. So Shirley, my fault. So I have to do it one more time. It is because I forgot to unmute myself. Okay, so now it should be back. Okay, Shirley, please do not reboot your computer. I did not do this by design. It is really something that I have over prepared. Okay, so I'll just acknowledge everyone once again. So Shirley, hello. Michi from Philippines, hi. Nicholas from Singapore, hi. And thank you for watching live. For those who are watching replay, hashtag replay so that I know you are watching replay. I was talking about this new rule that I imposed recently. Okay, yeah, Shirley, see, I forgot to unmute myself. That's the thing. I will leave this Facebook Live for one and a half days. So on Tuesday, 12 p.m. Singapore time, I will take down this Facebook Live because I wanted to use this Facebook Live for further repurposing. So Stephanie, hi, thank you. Thanks for watching. Good evening to you as well. Some of you who are watching replay or live, you notice that Don has actually spent 4 days with us on Video Hero, which I finished this program not long ago. Hi, Deborah. Good morning to you. Thanks for dropping by again. I know it's a early morning to you, so thank you for watching from the United States. I was talking about this 4 days Video Hero virtual, which we have just completed a couple of hours ago. And there's a bunch of students who have their first taste of doing Facebook Live. And I was seeing some of them. Hi, good morning, Deborah. How are you? And Jun Xian, hi, how are you? From Singapore. So I was teaching a bunch of our video heroes. They are now graduates. How to plan the Facebook Live. So some of them may be coming to check me out because I have seeded them. This is how I charter my Facebook Live, which is a community service. All right, so mind my voice. I have spoken for 4 days, not just Video Hero, but some other program as well. I ran a Sheroes with my women entrepreneurs on Friday for whole day, actually more than 8 hours. So I've been speaking for 4 days. I have 1 day rest tomorrow. And what happens is that Tuesday to the next Tuesday to the end of the week, I'll be engaged in another virtual events. So that will be like, oh my God, the whole week I'll be doing speaking nonstop. So one thing about speakers, please take note, take care of your voice. Make sure that you drink enough water. All right, so let me get started. Okay, so we have got Wei Liang. Hi, thank you for watching. Hi, Sherman. Hi, thanks for watching. And thank you for dropping by my weekly community service. Okay, so let's talk about the subject. The subject came from one of my recent experiences called how to coach your clients without sounding like consultants. Okay, and this is a very interesting topic because I was talking to my Video Hero graduates. How did I come up with this topic? Well, I said that number one, I don't want to come up with the contents by myself because very easily I can get any single of my clients. Of course, you don't mention their names. Okay, that's very important, the private and confidentiality. So I was talking to a few of my mentees who did role play with me because of certain other courses requirements. And one common thing that I noticed about the junior coaches, I won't say myself as senior. I have only been coaching for 12 years. So I don't know whether I'm considering myself senior for that reason. All I'm saying is that I noticed that the junior coaches have one thing in common. That is, they sound like consultants. So I want to take this opportunity to address this key issue. How do you coach without sounding like consultant? So I'm going to start with the first thing, which probably if you have been watching my Facebook Live, you have been following my work, I will start off with the definition first. So what is a coach, what is a consultant, or who is a coach, who is a consultant, and what's the difference, or what are the differences between coaches and consultants? So in a moment, I'm going to jump to my iPad. I'm going to start talking about the two things. So let me see whether my iPad is working. Yep, it is. The key thing is that have I actually switched to my iPad? I think so. So let's start. Coach and consultant. Okay. Nothing wrong with both things. I'm a consultant, by the way. I'm a business consultant and I do tax consulting as well. So I am not a coach only. I am doing consulting work as well. All right, so let me just check whether my iPad is being shared. Apparently it's not. That's why you don't see that. Hello, Sudev. Good. I should say good morning to you because it should be midnight, right, in your place. Okay, so let's start with this iPad. So we have got two sides. One is coach, one is consultant. So I like to start with the definition always. So what is the definition of a consultant? A consultant is a person, no problem. We all understand, right? It's a person, okay, who has industry knowledge. So let's say, for example, in my case, I'm a tax consultant. I've been doing international tax for 26 years. 26 years. So I have the industry knowledge to be able to advise my clients on tax issue, both Singapore and internationally. And by the way, on Tuesday night, I'll be involved in teaching universities lecture. So this is an income tax course, which the last time I taught was 2017. I'm actually doing international tax for this university. So I've been a faculty member for 8 years. I'm doing Zoom meeting. Can you imagine that in Singapore, I will be conducting lectures in tax using Zoom meeting? So some of the lecturers are very concerned about whether they are able to do this. Yet being for me, using Zoom meeting for so long is not a problem. So the way that I'm doing a Facebook Live is actually the way I'm doing my lecture. Okay, coming back, I digress a lot. So the person has industry knowledge, okay? And why would someone want to engage or hire a consultant? Because the person who is your client has questions. Okay, I won't call them problems because we don't attract problems. I attract questions. Okay, so what happens is that the client has a question or questions that need someone to solve. So if the client knows the answer, then there won't be any consultant. The consultant exists because consultant has the industry knowledge and of course, most importantly, the experience. Okay, that's the key. I always tell people you cannot do consulting by just reading a book or hoping to learn an online course on YouTube and then you start doing consulting work. That doesn't make sense. This is called fake consultant. Okay, so we do not have people in our industry who are tax consultant and yet they don't have any experiences. So one thing that in our industry we are very particular is the numbers of years of experiences we have, which firm we have served. So I came from Baker McKenzie, one of the largest law firm in the world in tax practice. So in the business world, I typically will address that I have been doing tax for 26 years. I came from Baker McKenzie, one of the largest international law firm in the world, and I do tax. And by the way, I study tax in not accountancy school. I'm not a tax accountant. I'm a tax attorney. I study tax in law school. So this is how I brand myself when it comes to tax consulting, because that allows me to have certain credibility. Hi, good evening, Arthur. Thank you for watching. And I should also acknowledge somebody here, Winnie, if you're watching still. Shin, hi. And then we have got Chun Yi, hi. And of course, Transon I think Transon is from Vietnam. Okay. Tashia, Ohayo gozaimasu, Japan. This is to the best of the knowledge I know. So the client has question and they hire consultant because the consultant has what we call the answer. That's the key. You're welcome, Winnie. My pleasure. So you see that when you do a Facebook Live, so if you are from Video Hero, especially today, you notice how your teacher is doing the acknowledgement. So it's a bit of the teaching to the people who are watching me because I taught them how to do Facebook Live my way. So I'm actually demonstrating what I taught them this morning. Okay, so you have to constantly acknowledge them. Well, coming back, so the client actually have question and they cannot solve. So what they do is they hire a consultant to be able to give them the answer. And you better want to get the answer quick because most consultants, they charge based on time. So the longer they spend in solving a problem for their clients, the more they charge. But that's not really cool. The clients wants very good advice fast. And I don't mind paying good advice in the shortest amount of time when the value is there. So my proposition of charging my clients is no longer based on time. Time came from this word called employee mindset. Like Kiyosaki said, if you are charging based on time, you are on the left-hand side of the quadrant. So I don't charge based on time because I'm no longer working with law firm. Law firm have this thing called timesheet. So I charge clients based on the value. So I'm no longer those consultants we are charging based on hourly rates. That's not me. Or that's what I learned in my entrepreneurship journey. So when I give the answer quick, it doesn't mean that the answer is cheap. The quality is low. It is because I can give the answer fast to help the client to solve the burning issue in their business. And that's the very important. Yes, I'm coming, Mohana. What's the topic here? Coaches versus consultant. Go and read my narration, Mohana. The narration has detailed descriptions, which I taught my Video Hero students, that whenever I'm doing a Facebook Live, I'm giving you the complete answer of what I'm doing. So go and check out the narration. There's about 5 paragraphs that what I'm going to cover today. Okay, so go and check it out. All right. I know some people don't focus on details. However, in business, understand something. If you don't focus on details, you cannot grow your business. I know that the action personality and the nurturing personality may not be interested in details. Only Jack Wong type of people would be interested in detail, but I'm a very number and facts-driven person. I'm very, very detail-focused, which is the reason why I write such a long note in order to press the button to go live. So this is my style of doing Facebook Live. I'm not someone who do a Facebook Live just anyhow at any time. That's never how I teach my student. Okay, coming back. So Joey from Malaysia. Wow, dude, how are you? Wow, long time no see. How have you been? Okay, so coming back, consultant, quickly give the answer to client. That's it. So the consultant's mindset is always to give the answer, solve problems. So remember these 2 words. Quick answer, give answer, give answer, give answer. Okay? You won't want to hire a consultant where the consultant will tell you as a client, thank you for sharing with me your question. And by the way, do you have other things to ask? The client will not want this kind of additional question. You can clarify, but you are not going to ask further questions. That's not your job. Your job is to give a quick answer fast or quick answer so that you get paid. When you give a quality answer, you get paid. That's the key. Hello, Edith. Hi. And then we have got Danish from Malaysia watching. Joey, I'm good. How are you? I just finished 4 days Video Hero virtual event. And in the next week, I'm going to run another 2 virtual events. So the month, Jack has been running virtual events since March, non-stop, and even teaching university using Zoom meeting this week. Okay, coming back to coach. What is a coach? So if you have followed my weekly community service, 2 weeks ago, I talked about this path of possibility from a coach to a trainer, to a facilitator, to a program designer, to the true teachers and leader. So for those who missed the part, don't worry. Hope that someday in time I'll be touching that point, that part again, because tonight I just want to draw the distinction between a coach and a consultant. So this is the thing about a coach. Again, common thing is that a coach is a person. I don't care whether you call yourself a business coach, executive coach, life coach, or mindset coach, whatever you call this. Okay, a coach is a coach because of one thing. It's the ability to see the label. So it's suppose this is called a bottle. Okay, my bottle is drawn this way. So what happens is that in the bottle, your client is inside the bottle, but there is a label here. And the label reads A, B, C. However, the client who is inside the jar cannot see the label A, B, C. So a coach's job is to go through certain process, which is the coach here tells you, hey, client, the label is A, B, C. So what is A, B, C in real life? Okay, what is A, B, C? Can anyone guess what's A, B, C in real life? Because it is a metaphor of bottle, using bottle to explain what coaching is all about. So if you can guess what does ABC stand for in real life? Can anyone guess? I'm looking forward to the answer. Oh, by the way, Eric is here. Eric from Singapore. Hello, how are you? One of the very experienced coaches, by the way, Eric. You want to find out what Eric does, check on him because he's a very experienced coach. So when you come to my Facebook Live, if I do know you, I may even promote you. And that's the beauty of coming to my Facebook Live. All right. So if I cannot get any answer right now, I will just let all of you know ABC in real life is called the blind spot. Okay. So ABC is the blind spot. How many of you actually have blind spot? Oh, sorry, I mean blind spots. Me too. I have blind spot or spots. Everyone has. The metaphor of you being in the jar can't reach the label can't read the label simply because that you have the blind spot. You are inside the jar. You can't see the label. Who can see the label? Well, anybody else except you. So the thing is that the coach job is to see the label and inform the client. Okay, you've got this blind spot. So that, hi Eric, hello, how are you? So we have got this label outside the jar, which is called the blind spot. So what will the coach do in order to help the client to identify the blind spot? Of course, you can learn NLP, you can learn therapy. There are so many things you can do, but there's only one thing in common. Among all the processes that I know, I literally can tell you I know 10 processes. But again, don't be the guy who go and learn all processes and do practice. Okay, one thing I need to hamper on people who collected a whole bunch of certificates or attending courses after courses, understand something. If you just learn from one person or attend just one course and if you don't do anything, that's not going to work. Experience is not the best teacher. Experience is the only teacher. Okay, so what I'm telling all of you is that at the end of the day, yes, it is very easy for me. The old man said there's a blind spot. How do I help my clients to identify the blind spot? So notice this thing. The consultant actually gives the client answer. The coach, on the other hand, does not give the client answer. This is the fundamental difference between a coach and a consultant. Some of you, I know you will have a different definition, but this definition I have came from my 12 years of history in terms of coaching. I never ever ask my client, or sorry, I will say again, I'll never ever want to give my clients the answer, even though I have the urge or temptation to give my client answer. Why? Because for coaching, all my job is about helping my clients to identify the blind spot. And the only technique, regardless of what processes you go through, is the ability, so it is a skill to do what? Two things. Number one, ability to listen, not hear. It's not to hear, it's listen. You hear via your ears, but you listen through your heart with intent. That's the key. Listen is not about listening using your ears. Listen with your heart with intent. That is my definition of listening. On the other hand, what is the second ability? The ability of asking questions. Not those questions that will make your clients go blur. So Singapore English, Malaysian English, go blur means create more confusion. Your ability to ask questions has to be ability to ask good questions. What's good question? Some of you who have followed my word, you know that good question is the one that gives you what's the word? C word. The word start with C. Clarity. Good questions lead to clarity. So a good coach is the one with the ability to listen and the ability to ask good quality question or good question so that the client is able to gain awareness. And your job, your outcome is to let the client be aware of the blind spot, be able to see the issue clearer. So the metaphor is that the client has one door in front of him, which is currently lock or close. Your job is to, through this ability, to help the door to be open. So who opened the door? Is that you? Or is that the coach? Oh, sorry, is that you or is that the client? You don't open the door. You let the client open the door by himself or herself. And when one door opens, then the client will see 3 choices. Some of you may think that a choice means that you need to choose A and B. And the reason why we always love to use the 3 doors concept is that in life, in real life, a choice actually is defined as you have 3 options. Because when you have only got 2, this is not a choice. This is still no choice, either A or B. So thank you, Sam. Thank you for replying. It's client, correct. So there's a lag on my device, so I may only see your question or response in 10 seconds. So I need to keep going. If I wait for your answer, sometimes you will understand that my Facebook Live can run into 2 hours. The longest one I had is 2 hours and 47 minutes. And the reason why that happened is because there's sometimes we call the lagging. All right, so when the client is able to open one door, the client see 3 options. Is it better for the client to see these 3 options? And we all say that human beings have the ability to choose. So when the client make his own choice, the power of choice is on the client, and the client will be empowered. So a lot of you who told me, I want to empower people. How the hell do you empower people if you do not let the client go through this process by himself or herself? Does that make sense? So this is like a quick sneak peek of the definition of a coach versus a consultant. Okay, so this is the what. So Mohana asked, am I talking about the difference between coach and consultant? Yes. The question is that, why is that important? So notice that I'm starting to the second part, which is the why. Why is it important to make a distinction between a coach and a consultant? Okay, let me draw this again. We have a coach here, we have a consultant here. Okay, I got a feedback from some junior coaches, and they say that, well, I'm not in this industry. So let's suppose that I'm a tax consultant. So because of my industry background, of course, I can solve tax problem. Okay, because my industry background is tax, I can solve tax problem. Okay, so we have got a business coach here on the other hand. So this person decides to do business coaching. Okay, and he said, you know what? Although I do business, I don't have this specific knowledge in tax. So how can I coach? How many of you have heard of this question before? That because of the lack of industry knowledge, I can't do business coaching. I will say this word, OMG. That's the confusion between these 2 terms. I don't have the industry knowledge in taxation. I cannot render tax advice. I can't be a tax consultant. How many of you have heard of this term called a taxation coach, by the way? Like, I have not heard of this term. I only know there is tax accountant, tax lawyer or attorney, tax consultant, tax advisor, but I have never heard of something called a taxation coach. Okay? That's the first problem I have. That's why I say, oh my God. The second question I have is that a business coach, what does a business coach actually do? So this is a tricky question because I said he or she is a business coach. So question is that, what does a business coach do? What does she do? Let's think about it. What is the difference between a life coach, a business coach, or executive coach? I'm just using very simple terms here: a life coach, a business coach, and an executive coach. What are the differences? Let's think about it. What are the differences? It could be because you are coaching based on the client's profile. It could be just a normal person on the street who need to have some people to help the person to identify the blind spot. So life coaching typically is work with individuals. For business coaching, it's the target audience is actually the business. For executive coaching, to me, therefore, your target audience is the executive. That's it. There's like, this is the only definition that I know, the difference I know. Of course, you would then say, oh, different coaching programs have different coaching processes. Remember, the clients don't pay you for your freaking process. The clients don't even know your processes until they have gone through the process. I see a lot of coaches, they sell their coaching program by explaining the process. Understand something. If your client doesn't know the process, how the hell would they be able to understand what you do unless they have gone through the process? So I teach my students, you do not sell a coaching program by going through the process. You are an NLP coach. Don't talk about what is NLP, because what is more important? The result. I'm not here putting down the NLP people, by the way. I'm the licensed NLP trainer, one of the 12 in Singapore, personally trained by Dr. Richard Bandler. So if I say bad things about NLP, I'm putting myself down too. So I'm not here making offense about NLP. I'm just saying that even me, on my Facebook, you never know, you never see that I am using NLP to do something. But I mastered NLP for many years. Understand? But I would never tell people my coaching program is to use NLP. Never. Because I only talk about what is the outcome, what is the result I can put on the table. Remember, it's about results, not the process. Does that make sense? If it makes sense to you, comment on the chat. Okay, so you can resonate with that. Coming back, what is the one thing that the life coach, a business coach, and the executive coach have in common? Is the ability of listening and the ability to ask question, ask good question. That's it. So let me ask you this further question. When you are a business coach, let's say you are a business coach here, does it mean that you have to have the tax knowledge? You don't need that. Because a coach never needs to have industry knowledge. Because what if you agree with what the coach does, he's only to listen with intent and with the heart and the ability to ask questions. So I'm very amazed by the fact that a coach becomes a consultant in doing business coaching. Because if a coach is doing a business coaching, but it is a consulting work, then the business coach shouldn't call himself a business coach. He should call himself a business coach come consultant. Or I will just put it this way. I will brand it as business consultant, who provides coaching. Unfortunately, in the marketplace, consultants pay more. Consultants are paid more. Consultants are paid better. So from a branding perspective, although I do business coaching and consulting, I will still brand myself as a business consultant. That is from a branding perspective. Okay, so this is a bit of the business lesson that you may want to learn. Coming back, so regardless of life, business, and executive coaching, the process is the ability to listen and ask questions. So why would you want to become a consultant when you do business coaching? In the first place, does it matter if you have or don't have the industry know-how? So this is a very big thing that I'm looking at for coaches, especially those who claim that they do business coaching and they tell the world that, you know what, you've got to know the industry. You've got to know what industry you are in. You've got to have the experience in that industry before you do business coaching. I will just go back to these 3 words. Oh my God, you don't. When you need business knowledge to solve the problem, you are a consultant. Okay, now why is that important? Well, so the good news is that even though you don't have the industry knowledge, you can be a business coach. I know in some Facebook groups that I patronize, they say that if you are not running a business currently, you can't be a business coach. Because what they are telling you is this: for business coaching, you need to have certain fundamentals, such as marketing skill, such as branding, such as lead generation, such as closing and sales. You need to have these skill sets in order to do business coaching. But let me ask you this question. If you have this knowledge and practice it in the real world, when you're providing such service to your client, are you a service provider, come a consultant? So you see, the point is that when they say that you need this, you need this, you need this, at the end you become a consultant. Okay, so what I'm telling you is that as a business coach, you don't need to really have these skills, because coaching is all about listening and asking questions. You better learn how to ask good questions, which is I'm going to the next part pretty quickly. Okay, so what is that business coaching all about? So Sandra Bravo, who is a business partner of Alex Mandosian and who is also my working partner and my mentor, said this: I don't care whether you do life coaching or you do business coaching, 80% mindset, 20% skills and others. Most clients that I work with, when they come to me to ask for business advice, they are very specific. They know absolutely what the problems are because they want a quick answer. They want to get the answer. They get the answer and solve the problem. And of course, I get paid. This is a consultant mindset. When they come for business coaching, the funny thing is this: they don't really know what happened in their business. There's like searching like left, right, center. They hope that they know the problems. If they know the problems, they will not come for business coaching. So your job as a business coach, first of all, is to learn how to breathe, because you don't need to worry about you so much of the lack of business knowledge. Because when you focus, imagine that your focus is on them. This is your client. The client has got a lot of problems, but the client is not sure which direction he wants to go to. And your job as a business coach is just to help them open one door so that 3 doors will be open. So the metaphor is that one door opens, 3 doors will be there. So each door, currently the door is closed. So when you help them open one door, another 3 doors opens. So the person have more choices. The person have more choices to be able to make. And the person will be empowered with the choices. The reason why a person gets stuck is because the person can't see the choices. So your job is to create the awareness, help them see the blind spot, help them to open the door. Not you open the door, help them through your process of asking questions and listening so that they can open the door by themselves. Because when they get it, they get it. When you open for them, they still may not get it. So this is something called empowerment. Empowerment is that you give them the power, but they have to take the action to do the work. So your focus is always on them, not you. Some coaches are very worried about themselves. It's like, what is the next question I'm supposed to ask? And then am I asking the right question or not? Or am I on the right track? Like everything is about them. If you are worried about you, I'm sorry to say that you are not coaching. You are just going through an assessment to see how good your coaching skills are, but you are not a coach. A coach has nothing to do with you. It's your client. The client pay you to help them see more doors to be open. That's the whole mindset. So a lot of times when they get stuck, it's because the mindset is the main problem driver. So your ability to help them unlock the inner self, to mitigate the little voices, they will find a way, they will solve the problem, and you don't even need to have any relevant business knowledge or skills. Trust me, this is what I believe business coaching is all about. So I hope that by this 34 minutes, it will help some of you to have a relief about business coaching. If someone tells you you got to have this skill, that skill, they are talking about business consultant. I need to make that big decision or big distinction so that you know that someone may be confused between the definition of business consulting and coaching. Okay, so I don't want you to come to this world as a business coach sounding like a consultant. If you do, and if you choose to, then call yourself a business consultant. Going back to what I said earlier, a business consultant actually would be paid more, paid well than a business coach. That is a fact. Okay. So at this point, I want to acknowledge some people who dropped by, but I didn't have a chance to mention their name. So Elsa, one of my mentees, thank you. And Dave, Anna, and Wei Chuan. Wei Chuan and Dave have just finished the video hero. So you see that I'm delivering my promise. Have I not told you that I'm doing my public community service at 9 p.m.? Okay. So Jia Chuan is here also. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for dropping by. Now coming back to part 3, the 3 tips that will help you do your business coaching without sounding like a consultant. How many of you would love to listen to this part or to learn something? Okay, so 3 tips. I'm going to give you 3 tips. Very simple. Okay, these 3 tips, even a 5-year-old can handle it. Okay, number 1, let me draw the triangle here. So some of you who follow my work, you know what I'm doing, but please don't say anything. You just observe. Okay, so there are 3 things you need to know about this framework. How do you coach effectively without sounding like a consultant? Number 1, you need to start practice. Learning is one thing. You can go for courses to learn how to coach. I know there are people out there who spend hours and hours learning how to coach. I know a bunch of people. As I said earlier, the missing piece is the practice. Because if you don't practice, see, Elsa, Sam, you all know what I'm doing, but please just keep it to yourself. You know your teacher is doing this because your teacher teach you this. Okay? So the first thing you need to know is that by going to a program, by going to a course, by reading a video online, you are just doing something called learning. You need practice. Why is it a big deal in the world of coaching about practice? Yes, on one hand, practice will give you this thing. Practice will give you, number 1, the experience. Right? Does that make sense? Practice gives you the experience. Experience, remember I said, is the only teacher. You must learn, do. Learn, do, learn, do, learn, do. The cycle repeats. Learn, do, learn, do, learn, do. So you got to put what you learn into practice. But you may say, oh, Jack, I'm afraid of doing practice with my clients. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm doing something that then the client is upset? Okay, so therefore, James is not from this community. That's why if James is going to the other community, which is related to your community, which I've seeded you to consider to join, is this thing that we are very big in the other community that is called role play. And James will laugh at me and say, I know which program you're talking about. Okay, but role play is a very important element. You role play with your peers. So let's suppose you are going for a coaching program to learn how to coach. Okay, number 1, and you are going to practice your coaching skill with your peers who are going through the same program. So a lot of these coaching programs, the certification part, have this thing called the practicum. Practicum. So it's not practice, it's called practicum. What is practicum? Practicum means that you are assessed, not based on your academic or paper knowledge. You'll be assessed based on your role play, based on your practice. And then the assessment had this component called practicum, role play. This is very important. So the question is that why do we want to inculcate the practice via role play? This is something that most of you will have known in the corporate world or in the traditional school, whereby role play is to allow you to make mistakes. If you think that the reasons for doing role play is to make sure that I do it perfectly, I can tell you that that is a wrong intention. The reason is that I have never ever had one role play which I don't make mistake. But it's a good thing to make a mistake in the role play. Why? So that you will not make the same mistake. Let's suppose you make a blunder. Okay, it's very big mistake. Let's suppose you make a blunder in your role play. How many of you believe that you will never make that mistake for the rest of your life? Because you will feel so guilty. Okay, feel so guilty of making the same mistake. So make as many mistakes as possible, but not intentionally. I'm not suggesting that. But do acknowledge the fact that a role play allows you a safe environment to make those mistakes. And then after making mistakes, the next thing you need to learn will be the feedback. So there should always be an observer in the role play, or whoever is role playing with you, the other person should be the one giving you feedback. Now, this feedback thing, I have to be very honest to some of you. Some of you may not know how to give, I will call this specific feedback. Now, what is the feedback? The feedback is that, wow, James, let's suppose I role play with James. So James is the last person to comment. Okay, let's suppose I do role play with James, and James has done his coaching role play. My feedback is like this: James, wow, your role play is solid. You have done a great job. I love your role play. Do you think James find any of my comments useful? James will say, well, but it's not useful to me. I don't get whether the roleplay is good, I'm fantastic, or what. So therefore, one thing you need to realize when you give feedback, you need to learn how to give feedback. Your feedback has to be specific. What's specific? Specific means two things. One, it is something that perhaps you may not be noticing. Some of the students with whom I role play, I actually have an index card with me. I jot down every single piece of note to the best of my ability so that I can give specific feedback. So you see that now the response comes. You don't want to give feedback like what I did earlier. That's not feedback. That is just a soothsaying statement. Make James feel good. But James will find nothing to be useful at all as he just acknowledged. Like boost his ego, but it's not useful. So if you want to give serious feedback to people with whom you role play, my practice is to get yourself index card and a pen. Your job is to write down as detailed as possible. When you give feedback, it's not about the person. It's not about James. It's about the James role play performance. So it's the task. It's not the person. When you give feedback, next thing you need to know is not about the person. It's the specific feedback to the person's performance. So what do I do in terms of giving feedback? Now, some of you, when you get specific, like in the society, I know that in Singapore especially, we just like to complain. So you start with something negative. No, don't do that. Because you want to create a safe place, a safe environment for the person to receive feedback. So I personally subscribe these two things. I call it the gems and opportunities. See, you don't believe that I'm actually coming to teach you how to give feedback, right? Okay, don't take it personally. No, it's not even personal. So James said that don't take it personally. No, I'm not talking about personal feedback. I'm talking about the performance, the feedback on the performance. So there's nothing personal. It's like I won't even need James to feel personal because the feedback is about the performance. So you start with gems. Gem is something that James has done well. You always want to start with things that the person has done well. Because when you start criticizing, which I know Singaporeans are very fast, very good at this, specializing, you are actually boosting the self-esteem or pressing the self-esteem of the person, in this case, James, compress it in such a way that the self-esteem, the self-concept of James will be gone. And James will not want to do role play for the rest of his life. So it is important to give feedback starting with gems. That's why it's called gems first. Gems and opportunity. Okay? I never talk about strength or weakness. I don't talk about positive or negative. You notice that the word I use is gems. So one thing that I discover about you in your role play is one thing. You notice that I talk about the one thing? The one thing or the one gem that I've noticed in your role play is that you were very calm when you are asking questions. So I like the fact that in this part, you are asking the question this way. And I think that it is good because you see the recipient, the role-playing client, feels suddenly enlightened. I like the way you ask question. I like the way you use this term. I like the way you see that that's the way to give feedback. Not like, wow, it's a good question. How good is good? You need to be very specific. That's why if you are serious about doing role play, you need index card. You need to jot down very good notes, as detailed as possible. Like typical role play for me, 40 minutes, I can write easily 4 pages, or me in my record is 9 pages. I can write very fast because I want to give very specific feedback. So once the person is done, once you are done with the gems, you go to the opportunities. And then now, instead of weakness, never ever say weakness. Never ever frame them as negatives. These are just opportunities. So one opportunity I would like you to consider. Notice my languaging. One opportunity that I would like you to consider is, it's very objective. I'm not targeting James. I'm just talking about his performance in the role play. One opportunity. So what am I leading to? How could James improve when he does the role play next time? So one opportunity, James, you could consider is, okay? Perhaps this question you can ask this way. Explore the possibility of asking this question this way. Let me give you an example. Everything has to be very specific. If you are not specific enough, you are not doing a service to your partner. Let's face it. If you are not specific in giving feedback, you are not doing a good service to your partner, because the partner now know, okay, one gem that I can use it again and again, and one opportunity, it means that I may have to look at how I frame the question next time. Maybe this is the better way. Let me test it out. So that's why we call it one opportunity. It's not a weakness. You never know whether this question is good in different contexts. This is how you frame. Now, do you see that just the first element, practice, lead to talking about earning experiences, which is the only teacher. And how do you get the experience? Is by doing role play. I show you how to get role play, or the reasons why you do role play. And then what is done after the role play, gems and opportunity. And by the way, I'm only talking about the first part. I still have 2 tips. So now let's wrap it up. The first tip is to practice. Okay, experience, role play, and by the way, to enable your partner in the role play, to empower your partner in role play, you better learn how to give specific feedback. And the only way I know to give specific feedback is for you to jot down notes. I bet some of you will say that I have very good memory. Yeah, I'll talk about the one thing later. So why would you want to use your memory to memorize whatever happened in the role play? Why are you wasting your memory capacity? So my teacher Alice taught me, don't waste your memory capacity. Like you can use your memory for other useful things. Not to say that it's not useful, but when you jot this down, you will not miss the details. At the beginning, I said business owners focus on details. If you do not pay attention to details, you can't scale your business. I have said this at the beginning. Some of you who are with me at the beginning, you remember this. Okay? So James asked the question, do you only point out one thing, or you can point out more than one? I like to start with one thing. If the person can receive more, I will just say another gem. Another gem. So I will not say like, I'll give you 3 gems. No, 1 gem at a time. Let the person focus on the first gem, which is to you the most important one. So when the person says, When the first, you feel the person is ready to receive the second one. So another gem I would love about your role play is, yes, you can say another gem, but the more you say, you prolong the feedback session. Like, for example, how many of you agree that you just need to make one distinction? Just one distinction, your next role play will be better. So do you need collecting a lot of feedback? No, I just need one gem, one opportunity. That's enough for me to improve my next role play. This is why I emphasize the word one thing. And on my Facebook wall, every single day, you hear me talking about focusing question, one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing. I've been talking about this for 3 weeks already. So if you are not sure what I'm talking about, go and patronize my Facebook wall and you get a lot of these insights about the one thing. All right. So hope that, James, thank you for allowing me to use you as an example. Let's move on to the second part, the second tip. How many of you find that the first tip is already very big? Okay, so let's talk about the second one. So thank you, James. Thank you for allowing me to use you as a demo. Number 2. Okay, this is also very clear. This is very simple. I like simple stuff because simple stuff allows you to implement fast. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so remember I said questions, statements. Okay, let me just put this down first. Question and statements. Or may not be statements, maybe in the proper English way. Let me just write this down again. So it's about question and sentence. So the whole thing about second tip is your awareness. Your awareness of question, the difference between question and sentence. Now, let me give an example here. Number 1, in English language, what is the punctuation for a sentence? What is the punctuation of a sentence? It ends with, in American English, it's called period. In English, in British language, it's called full stop. So it depends on whether you subscribe to American English or British English. Okay, period or full stop, which is a dot. Okay, thank you, James. Awesome. So how about question? What is the punctuation of a question? Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for dropping by. What is the question? A question mark, as the name says. Okay, Jack, you are teaching me something I learned when I was young. What the heck is all about? Let me explain. So the question is here. The tip is about your awareness of question and sentence. Now, for junior coaches, let's say you are new in this business. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for typing question mark instead of giving me a punctuation. I love that. All right. So this is the thing. You might be very conscious by giving advice. Okay. So remember I said that the junior coaches are very eager to give advice. You need to learn this thing. As a consultant, you give advice. As a coach, you don't give advice. Why? Because who will be empowered in the process? It's not you, it's your client. And when your clients get it, your client is empowered. So advice is something the client will receive, but whether the client understands your advice or whether the client will implement this or whether the client will have an aha moment, it is something that I don't know. That's the problem of giving advice. I can give you advice, but whether you implement the advice or not is something beyond my control. That's what consultant does. I give you advice only. I don't look at the implementation. But for a coach, the thing is that you don't give advice. So let me talk about what it is. You are asking questions. So be conscious about when you are asking a question, does the question sound like a sentence? Because you might not be consciously aware. Yep, that's right. So James says when the client gets it by himself or herself, the client actually gets it. If you don't get the answer by yourself, like the the whoom, the boom doesn't happen on you because people tell you there's a boom. You say, God man, there's a boom, man. I don't see anything. There's no boom because you didn't get it, right? But when you see that, oh my God, there's a boom, boom. Now you truly have the boom. That's the point. Okay. So whenever you are asking question, pay attention to what you ask. Because when you ask a question as a junior coach, you may be asking a question originally with this intention, but the execution is a sentence. Because the society has trained us not to ask questions. The society has trained us to receive instruction. This is the advice, do. This is the instruction, do. We don't have the opportunity and ability in our society to ask questions because this is how the corporate world is structured. Does your boss ask you question? Yes. But do you ask your boss question? You better not. Like you see, that's the point, right? In school, does your teacher allow you to ask question? Yes, when you raise hand. But when you raise hand, do you think your teacher will allow you to ask question? The teacher will give you a disclaimer and say, don't ask any stupid question. So we don't have the ability or the opportunity to learn how to ask questions when we were young. In the corporate world, unfortunately, because it is a fast-paced organization, there's like I cannot sit down and ask question. By the time the boss will F me already, right? There's no such thing, unfortunately. So we don't have this opportunity when we were young, and in the society, we may not have that opportunity. So our ability of asking question is pretty much depends on our awareness. And very often, because a junior coach may not have the enough practice, they might want to ask a question, but somehow it end up with the full stop or period. So I want you to ask yourself this. When you are asking a question, does it really end with a question mark? Or is it like a full stop, a sentence? Okay. So there are a few ways you want to take note of this. Okay, there are a few ways you want to take note of this. Number one, in English tonality, again, I'm doing English coaching, so I can talk about the English coaching, your intonation. So a question is asked when the last bit of your sentence or your sentence end on a high note. So this is something like this. So how many of you have seen that? You see that. You see the intonation is up. Although I know in Singapore, a lot of us are trained to make a sentence like a question. And sometimes I'm paying attention to all this. I found that, oh my God, it's very, very hard, very, very difficult to hear or to listen to. But in English language, your intonation will always end on high note when it is a question. It means that if it is a sentence, it will be going down. It is a sentence. Is that a sentence? Notice, is that a sentence? Is that a sentence? It is a sentence. It is a sentence. Do you see the difference? Take note of how Singaporeans speak who have not been trained on this. You notice that a lot of Singaporeans are speaking, making a sentence like a question. And your job is to pay attention to this. Because when you pay attention, this is awareness. This is the first tip. You must be aware externally. So when you get the external insight, now you will practice. How many of you think this is achievable? It's wrong. How many of you think that this is achievable? So you see, you may be asking a question like a sentence. How many of you think this is achievable? Wrong. How many of you think this is achievable? Yeah, this is the way. So get this insight and be consciously aware by listening to the conversation of other people. Not people, people. And then you start asking yourself, internalize it. So when you make a sentence, it's not a sentence, it's a sentence. It's a bit of the NLP here. So you see, I'm teaching NLP stuff without telling you it's NLP. Okay, so why do I mention this? The next thing is The next thing is that when you are now very conscious about a sentence, okay? A sentence, you know what? A sentence can end as if it is a question. So just now I said, okay, it is a sentence. Is it a sentence? So although it is a sentence, but by using tonality, the intonation, it turns out becomes a question. So you might be asking a question. No, it's not. You may be asking a question. It sound without using a question mark. That's what I'm talking about. Use the tonality to change a sentence into a question. The problem with this is you need to be very good at this, and I do not profess that I'm very good at this too. So that is part of my problem. Okay, so I can teach you. I'm not perfect on this. I'm also like consciously aware. I'm consciously competent. I'm not like reaching to the last stage called unconscious competence. I'm not there. I'm still making conscious choices. All right, so that's the first thing. The next thing is a bit more advanced, because whatever is advanced, it is very simple. How many of you remember in English language, when you go back to the English classes in your, this would be like primary school, if I'm not wrong, something called active voice? I don't know whether you still remember this. Like it is talking about like 40 years ago for me. Active voice and passive voice, right? Active voice and passive voice. Yep. So you will see that, for example, active voice means that the subject, object, and subject verb. You may not need to have an object, okay? But then you must end with the full stop if it's a sentence. I still remember this. This is an English class. Coming back, passive voice. So let's say I teach James just now. Let's say I teach James how to do role play. So I can use passive voice and say, James, he's taught how to do role play. So this is passive voice. Okay, so there are patterns here. Why is there a pattern here? Is because number one, this is passive voice. And I don't know whether you remember this. There's this thing called question tag. So James is taught how to do role play, isn't it? So this is called question tag. So if you cannot remember question tag, this is the one, isn't it? That's it. Don't stay. So Jet, why do you mention question tag? Because question tag is a technique whereby you may be making a question, but somehow it becomes a sentence. But by using question tag, now the sentence becomes a question, because question tag by definition is always a question, isn't it? Got me? Is it? You see, these are all examples. 是吗？对不？丢不？ You see, even Hokkien, you can have question tag. This is my NLP training. 对不对? This is question tag in Mandarin. 係咪㗎? This is Cantonese question tag. So I do speak a few languages. I do know question tags in 3 languages at least. So what do you learn from this? That is, yeah, that's very useful, isn't it? So when you want to make a sentence, and yet it somehow landed as a, when you want to make a question, it becomes a sentence, and you are aware that it should have been a question, then you just remember question tag. It doesn't matter whether it's does it, doesn't it. My very lame example is that just remember isn't it. No matter what, just isn't it. So that becomes a question. So this is to help you to salvage a situation when you make a sentence as a question, but you forget this is supposed to be a question. So in the end, you come up with the sentence, and now you know, oh my God, I make a mistake. No worries. Just remember power of question tag or intonation. Okay, so this is the part. So practice is the first one. And then be aware of sentence and question. And sometimes you can turn a sentence into a question, which means that you are still asking a question, isn't it? So you see, just practice. Again, it goes back to this way. You need to practice. Okay, so what is the final step? What is the final tip? Okay, the final tip. Again, it is simple. Like everything I teach you tonight is simple. And you can implement this. I'm not here teaching you English class. I'm just showing you the power of asking questions. Okay, so this one, I may have subtly talked about this in the past. It's called the throwback. But in this context, it's important, the throwback. Remember I said some times ago, your ability to listen with intent is to pay attention to what are the words, what are the phrases. How do you spell phrases? P-H-A-R-S-E-S, the phrases, okay? Or the jargon, or sometimes in our society we call the lingos. You pay attention to the words they use, the phrases they use, the jargon, the lingos they use. And that requires truly what I call the present. You need to be present. So I think in the last few months, I've been talking about this again. And what James said is true. That is, you are not repeating what they say. It's not like it's repeating, but it's about the word they use, so that when you ask a question, you incorporate. It's not just repeat the word they use, because let's say, so I am very, very sad. Or so you say you are sad. So if you just want to clarify, so I heard that you just said you are sad. Okay, if that is what you want, okay, that's fine. But when you are asking a question, so throw back the words they have used. What do I mean by this? What is the business problem right now? What is the number one challenge in your business right now? You know what? My business revenue actually drops by 50%. So you listen, it's revenue. Okay? So you ask a question. Your question could well be like, what was the revenue last year in absolute amount compared with this year's revenue? So you want, if your objective is to ask for comparison, like drop by 50%, you want to know what is the baseline, you ask a question. So what was last year's revenue in absolute dollars term compared with this year's revenue? So you want to confirm it's 50% or not, you can ask the question, not a problem. I'm not here teaching you how to ask a question. The key point of this part is, if the person uses revenue, you won't ask like this. Oh, so you say that the revenue has dropped 50%. By the way, can I just check what was the sales last year in absolute dollars? You notice I say sales. No, the person didn't use the word sales. The person uses revenue. So you throw back the word revenue to the person. Never reinvent certain words that the person never ever said. Because when you do that, you are breaking rapport. A lot of coaches ask, how do you build rapport? Yes, you can build rapport using tonality by sitting, what we call the mirroring. But this is another method. This is also one way. It's called the phrases or the words matching. You are matching with the lingos, the jargons they use. Throw back the same thing. So when the person use revenue, you better use revenue. When the person use sales, you use sales. When the person talk about closing, you talk about closing. Although you may not know what closing is about. So just now you said that, or your closing ratio is 90%. So closing can be conversion, right? Some of you may know the word conversion. So you may hear, okay, just now you say conversion is, no, I never say conversion. I say closing. So pay attention to this. So how can you be focused? How can you stay focused? That is the ability to stay present. Some coaches are very nervous. Remember I said at the beginning when I was talking about, okay, I'll just draw again. So they are very afraid of paying attention to their clients because they are worried about themselves. What is the right question to ask? What is the one thing I need to make sure I ask so that they will get the breakthrough? Is that every damn thing is about them, about the coaches themselves. Okay, so what happened? So is there any connection with the participants? Not participants, it's not events, but I mean the clients. No, because you are focusing on self. How do you create the connection and build rapport? Your focus is not like this. Your focus is your client. So you need to be present. The only way for you to adopt this strategy is when you stay present. Only then you will be able to extract the words, the phrases, the lingo, the jargons they use. So your attention is one way to the client, not yourself, not anywhere else. That's the very important point. Your focus is there. And the good news about using this approach is that you do not need to worry about what is the next question you're asking. Why? Because your attention is to the client. When you are truly immersed in this connection, the magic is you will know what is the next question you ask. Why is that? Why is that case? Why is that the case? Number one, how many of you have heard of this word called gut feeling? I know some of you have guts. I'm not talking about whether you have guts or not. I'm talking about whether you know this word called gut feeling. Okay? So the gut feeling comes from this word instinct. Every single human being I know has this thing called instinct. It's just a question whether you trust it or not. So this is what I said to some of my players or my students. When you trust your gut feeling, your instinct will direct you to ask the next question in a way that will align with the outcome. And that's the magic. I've got a student last week who told me, he said, I didn't realize that power of instinct. Because when I asked, like, when you ask this question, did you intend to ask in the first place? No, I just came out on the spot. How can you do that? I asked. Well, I don't know. So that's why I talk about this word, gut feeling or instinct. So do you believe now that your instinct will guide you in the direction you want your player to go or your client to go? And he said, yeah, I started to believe. And the only reason why he believes is he experiences it. So experience is really the only teacher. He's not seeing, he's believing. He's believing by seeing and by experiencing it. Because he has gone through the process, he believes because the experience supports his belief. So now he understands, wow, I need to trust my instinct even more. So coming back to the third tip is to pay attention to the jargons, the lingos, the words they use, and then you want to be truly present by not focusing on you, focusing on your client, so that there will be this amazing magic called the gut feeling, the instinct that will guide you to ask the next question. And just know that whenever you have got the right intention, which gives you the right outcome of this coaching session, you will know what is the next question you ask. You will. I won't even say you may. You will. It's a definite. Okay? The only thing I know is that instead of asking 3 questions to guide the person to open the door by himself, if you are effective, if you hone the skill, you don't need to ask 3 questions. Maybe you can just ask 1 question and the objective will be achieved. So I look for something called effectiveness. So it doesn't mean that you do not ask, you are not, that it's not cool to ask a lot of questions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not suggesting that asking too many questions is not cool. Because sometimes, when you want to get the outcome, being result driven of me, you want to get the outcome. If I can ask 2 questions, not 4 questions, I will ask 2 questions. If I can ask 1 question in order to get this outcome, instead of asking 3 questions, I will get this question just like that. So I'm always looking for that distinction to allow me to be more and more effective. Effective means that it's the maximum result, right? Maximum result, minimum input. That is what we call effective. Get the result with minimum input. That's being effective. That's what I believe. Okay? So to sum up these 3 tips that I share with you tonight, the first tip is to remember practice. Not just learn, do. You need to practice. The practice is through the process called role play or practicum that allows you to make mistakes during the role play. And if you're working with someone who is role playing with you, make sure you learn how to give feedback. Be specific, not targeting to the person, but the performance. Know how to give feedback. Gems and opportunities is a system that I use and have already demonstrated this earlier on. So if you miss or if you just join, you can hashtag replay and watch the replay on this part. All right. So tip number 2 is the ability, is the awareness of question and sentence. Question, sentence. I have demonstrated to you that although you wanted to ask a question, yet you come up with a sentence. And yet you can turn the sentence into a question using tonality, or turn the full stop into a question mark by using question tag. One thing you need to remember, this is not a cool approach if you keep using it. So it is still important to come up with questions just like that. This is kind of what we call the insurance approach. Like if you realize that you want to ask a question, it comes up as a sentence, like this approach will help you to turn this sentence back to a question. Another exercise that you want to play with your partner, such a suggestion, and I did this with my partner in the old days, that is, you are forming a trio. So this is an exercise you want to do. So you can get 3 people, A, B, C, 3 people. So this is a fun thing to play if you love to. So we do 3 rounds. Round 1, A and B will do the role play. So what does it mean? C is the observer as in round 1. So A, B do the role play. C will be the observer. Okay. So what A does, he should just fire question to B. Okay. Fire question to B. That's it. Just keep on firing for 10 minutes. So A's job is to keep asking B question after question after question after question. And B will answer. B will answer. A asks question. So A's job is just to ask question. And C's job is that the moment A does not ask a question, okay, it turns out as a sentence. So C will say, stop. Your 10 minutes starts again. So you have to train yourself to keep asking questions for 10 minutes. It's a grill all the way. Only 10 minutes successfully asking questions again, then we switch. Now B is the one firing question to C. A is the watchdog, or the person observe the process. So then come the round 3 will be C. So when you notice that you play this game 10 minutes just to ask question, fire question, like turning all sentences into question, even though you may find that, oh my God, the first time I do it sucks, you don't like it, sooner or later you'll be very good in asking questions. And some of the reasons why I'm able to do facilitation in terms of asking questions partly is coming from this exercise. How many of you realize that by knowing how to do this, you have a better ability to ask more questions? And by the way, how many of you also realize that practice makes permanent? And for some of you, if you don't believe practice makes permanence, how many of you also notice that if you give yourself permission to test it out, you will starting to believe it? And even though you don't believe what I say, can I just ask you to do it so that you begin to trust yourself? And I would like you to recall in the past, did you ever trust yourself? And when was the last time you truly trust yourself? And when was the last time you've experienced something happen that you didn't trust yourself? And what is the difference between trusting yourself and not trusting yourself? How do you feel? Have you had this feeling been consistently happening for the rest of your life to today? What do you think if this feeling continues for the rest of your life? You see, how many questions have I asked? More than 10. Has there a time I'm not asking a question? 0. I'm always asking questions, just now in the demonstration. This is a training. Grill it. And then here, you get that. Okay, the person in front of you have gone through this exercise. So the person know what to do. That's it. Okay, number 3 is to throw back, is to know the ability of using the lingos, the jargon, the phrases, and the words. Be present, connect, throw back the words as part of the question you throw back, as part of the question you ask, so that the player, the clients will feel connected. And then the magic will happen. The magic is the instinct, or what we call the gut feeling, will happen. Okay, I talk about the word gut feeling. All right, so that's the 3 tips. So tonight, the Facebook Live, we have addressed 3 things. Number 1 is what is coaching, what is consulting, and why is this difference important? Why it matters to you? One of the key things you learn is that you don't need to have the industry knowledge in order to do business coaching. I hope that some of you will find this a total relief, that I have to learn all this stuff in order to do business coaching. You don't need that. Based on my definition, you don't need that, because 80% of business coaching is all about mindset. This is the truth. Okay? Number 3, I'll give you 3 tips to help you to be able to effectively executing your role as a coach without sounding like a consultant, which a consultant is to give advice and make all the sentences. And your job is to be able to listen with the heart and intent. At the same time, this ability to ask good questions that gives the player, the clients, clarity. Okay, so that's it for me. And as usual, I thought that I would finish it at 10. I have over-delivered 1 hour and 22 minutes. So for those who are still staying there, 14 of you, thank you. Thank you, especially James, for helping me to be part of the role play tonight. I didn't ask you to be. Thank you for the willingness to play with me. And for the rest, have a good evening to all of you. Before that, 2 things. Number 1, I want you to share with me one of the biggest takeaway from the last 1 hour and 22 minutes. One of the biggest takeaway you have. Again, do the same thing. Do it. And then for those who are watching role play, please do it for me as well. One biggest takeaway about what you have learned in the last 1 hour and 22 minutes. Remember, if you're watching role play, not role. I keep saying role play. I mean replay. Sorry, I'm too into the role play already. So hashtag replay, so that I know you're watching replay. I will acknowledge each and every one of you tomorrow. I'm going to sleep as usual. I need to sleep now. And please take note, if you're watching replay, do it fast, because I will take down this Facebook Live on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Singapore time. All right. So with that, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next Sunday's my public community service, 9 p.m. Singapore Malaysian time. I'll see you there. The topic will be announced around midday. All right. So with that, thank you and have a good night, everybody.